Hello, good morning, Facebook. How are you guys doing? Happy Monday. Hope you're having a great Monday so far. As you see, I have a guest, Mr. Daniel J. Evans with Augusta Housing and Community Development. We're going to get right into the talks regarding the COVID-19 Small Business Relief Program that they are presenting, and then a community development manager that I have with us this morning. I know that you did a live on Friday at 4 p.m. So I did encourage everybody with the chamber and non-members and members to encourage them to go check out that live. We actually shared it on our page as well. So I still encourage you to listen to that live as you also listen to this live. And Daniel, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. I'm just gonna make sure everything looks good on my end. But if you could go ahead and kind of give people your background and so forth, why just make sure we're live and we have sound.
Absolutely. Sure. Thank you, Ms. Again, as she said, my name is Daniel Evans. I work for the City of Augusta's Housing and Community Development Department. And on behalf of the Mayor of Augusta and the Augusta-Richmond County Commission and our director here, Mr. Hawthorne Welcher, I'm here to speak with you about our COVID-19 Small Business Relief Program today. Today is the first or official launch date of the program. So we're really excited to get this information out and to provide a venue for those of you in the community who need resource for your business to reach back out to us with any questions that you may have.
Okay. So now with the program, I know that the application is not up yet. It doesn't go up until what time?
It is live. It actually went live.
Okay. So
it is live on the City of Augusta website, augusta.gov. And if you go to the departments tab and click on housing and development, on our main page at the very bottom of the page, you will see two links, one for program guidelines and one for the application itself.
Okay, well, I will drop the actual link down below in the live once we get off, so you guys can just click on that link. I actually have it, so I will send it directly there, and then you can actually access it. Now, how do small businesses actually apply for? I know that they click the link, but what type of documentation do small business owners need? What what are you looking for as far as background, and is it open to like brick and mortar and actual virtual businesses?
Sure. Yeah, great question. So in order to make sure that we were able to roll this program out in an effective emergency response mode, we did not want any of our local small business owners to have any technology hurdles to accessing the application. So typically with our nonprofits and our developers in the community, we have all moved to an electronic application system. We didn't want that learning curve around an emergency response with so much interest throughout the community. So you actually will be downloading a paper application that you can complete by hand. It is a PDF file. So if you would like to, you can use PDF editor in order to type into the application, but handwritten is perfectly acceptable. We wanted to make it just as easy as possible. It's not a super long application. The entire document is 10 pages, but a lot of that is instruction. So we are capturing basic demographic information about your business in terms of location, contact information, what's known as a Duns and Bradstreet number. So there's a link in the application that explains that, but that's a required registration that we need folks to do in order to be eligible to receive federal grant dollars. And I'll take a second just to let everyone know that this is a program that's being funded by federal funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development under our Community Development Block Grant. So a lot of the stipulations or requirements that you see associated with this program are really just the baseline requirements that those funding or that funding requires. So from a documentation standpoint, in addition to the application that can be downloaded from the website, and this is contained in both checklist and narrative form in both the guidelines and application, but just to give you a quick rundown, we will need to receive from the business their most recently completed IRS submission, usually a 1040 form, an operating agreement. If there are multiple owners in the business, we would need to see evidence of the operating agreement between those parties. There's a one-page document in the application known as an income verification and conflict of interest certification. That is germane specifically to the owner of the business. Housing and Urban Development likes to know sort of just the basic income range and socio-demographics of small business owners that they support in the community for various reasons. So we're asking to complete that form as part of the application. We'll need to receive the business's previous 8 weeks of payroll records in order to justify the ability to support a payroll payment if that's the avenue they're going down, a copy of their basic licensure and insurance documentation certifying that they are an Augusta, Richmond County located business and in compliance with necessary licensure, insurance, and zoning requirements. And again, that DUNS number, which is a Duns and Bradstreet number that can be obtained through a link that is contained in the application. And we will be using that in order to verify the business is cleared through the federal clearinghouse that is known as the System of Award Management, which can be accessed at sam.gov. And that is really just a consolidation of federal and Better Business Bureau information for any firms in America that have had serious complaints filed against them in the past. That makes them unresolved complaints, make them ineligible to receive federal funds. So again, that DUNS number would help us in the process of clearing the business through that System of Award Management.
Okay. Now the Duns and Bradstreet number. So I'm just thinking, because I know a lot of small business owners, sometimes they don't have that because it's not required a lot of times for a lot of different things. But when you're dealing with government, it's definitely required. Has that process of getting that number, has that improved? Is there a quicker process so they can take advantage of actually applying for this loan with the city of Augusta?
Sure. Yes, ma'am. So we've actually recently had to do a run through with some of our previous businesses that we've worked with on the Duns and Bradstreet process. And it is not, I don't know the old process that you may be referring to, but the current system usually takes about 20 to 30 minutes. If you have all of your appropriate information ready to enter into the website, it auto generates a number for you upon submission. And a follow-up email comes to you with the email information that you submit. So it's not a super onerous step. And if applicants run into major issues with it, they can certainly contact us for any assistance that we can provide in acquiring that number. Okay.
And how long is the application open? So let's talk about time frame. So I know it's open right now. I did try to click the link, but I got an error, but I'm gonna try again. And how long is the city of Augusta taking applications for the COVID-19?
Sure. Thank you for that. So we started today. Again, our applications are live today. And the framework for this application will be that we will review submitted applications in 5-day cycles. So you can consider it an open application until funds are exhausted. We have about $1 million to loan out through this program, but we will publish a schedule later today on the website that indicates the closure dates, but they will essentially be every other Friday that applications will be consolidated down, and those that meet the basic eligibility requirements will be forwarded to our selection committee for their review. So for instance, this coming Friday, I believe is the 26th, I will package up everyone who has submitted an application by 5 p.m. on the 26th and send that to our loan review committee, which will then review the documentation, excuse me, and have recommendations back to our department for Mr. Welcher the following week. And so then coming out of the 26th, just to do some quick math, you can submit an application at any time, just to be clear. But after the 26th, the next review period would start on July 10th, that 2 Fridays later.
Okay, so 2 Fridays later. And then what is the amount of the loan or the relief?
So the commission approved the program with a maximum award of $5,000. You can apply for any amount up to that. And just to speak real quick on the eligibility of the costs. So these grants, based around the rules of the federal program that we're working under, can cover costs associated with wages paid to employees, leasing or mortgage costs, utilities, and insurance. Now, this is a little tricky, so I'll try to slowly explain this because this can get confusing. How this program will work is if your firm is selected to receive funding by the selection committee under this program, our staff here at HCD, once we go through the agreement signing process with you, will work with you to document some expenses that you have already paid up to this point and reimburse you for those expenses. That's the way that Housing and Urban Development Funds typically work under the CDBG program, is you reimburse for costs to ensure that the money is spent eligibly. But then there are no use restrictions on the reimbursement you receive. So if you give me $5,000 worth of payroll expenses or $5,000 worth of lease payments that you incurred since January 1 of this year, and you're an awarded firm, obviously, we would review that documentation, make sure it's accurate, eligible, everything's good to go. We would then arrange to issue a check to you for $5,000 that is then $5,000 for your business to use as it sees fit to continue its mission of providing goods and services to the community. So in our previous conversations with community members, that's gotten a little tricky. Folks got a little confused by that. But again, the basic framework is there are limits on what we will pay you back for, essentially. Okay. There are no limits on what you can do with the money we pay you back with.
Okay. Okay, so let me just clarify that just so we make sure we get that clear. And then if you have any questions as you are in the live, go ahead and let us know. Also, be sure to share out this live, guys. I know that the Housing Community Development will be doing several information sessions throughout the community, so with different organizations and so forth, just to make sure we spread this information of the program that is now approved by our commission in our Housing Community Development. So what Daniel was stating is that it's a reimbursement program. So let me just clarify one thing before we get into that. So once they are reimbursed, they don't have to pay back the relief, is that, or they do have to pay back?
Sure. Yeah. And let me get through the structure there a little bit, just so we're, so I'll say this in a casual manner that's explained a little more in detail in the application. But the payback, if you will, for this is technically a loan under federal guidelines.
Okay, so it's a loan.
Right, but the payback that the city of Augusta is looking for is for the firms that receive funding to be able to show documented evidence that they have either hired or retained a full-time position for a person who is low to moderate income. And the owner or operator of the business, if their household income qualifies them to be low or moderate income, they can count towards that job retention component. And we understand that in the current environment, a lot of businesses may be only able to substantiate retention, right? But the basic design of this program, or the basic goal of this program, was to prevent business closures and to ensure stability and employment in our community. So that's the big piece for us, is we want to be able to show where someone working for the firm that receives the award from this program has a staff member on that is being paid whose household income is 80% of the area median income or below. There will be some follow-ups after that. So this will essentially be a one-year agreement that the businesses will enter into with the city of Augusta that will involve like a 6-month checkup where we'll just kind of be touching base, making sure they're still operating, everything's still going well, offering any of our other economic development services that we may offer at the time that may be appropriate for them, and to make sure they're on track with that job created or retained. And then on the 1-year anniversary date, after we have issued payment, we will have a return visit to kind of close the experience out, make sure that job is still documented, and release any liability to the business. Now, on that comment, I will say that this is a non-amortizing loan. So anyone who's unable to meet the requirements of the program will not bear interest on the loan that they receive. And we will work closely with all awarded firms to ensure that they meet that job creation or retention requirement. And we hope in a worst case scenario, not to have to seek sort of payback of the loan. We have not intentionally not designed a mechanism to recapture these funds because we know that our small business owners want to do everything they can, obviously, to be successful, but also to support their employees. So we're sure that firms that the loan selection committee picked to receive funds under this program will be in good position to support those employees as well.
Okay, so let me just clarify. So it sounds like to me, then just correct me if I'm incorrect, Daniel, please. I know we've been talking a lot via email and so forth, so I really appreciate you doing this morning.
Sure.
Just wanted to put that out there. So if they can show evidence that they have retained a full-time employee throughout the year, or if they are a underserved, low income person themselves that has a business, then the loan can be forgiven. Is that understanding?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then the other portion is that it's a reimbursement program. So what they need to do is gather their receipts for their insurance, utilities, or their payroll, and then
Right.
they will put that in the application, and then whatever money they receive, up to that amount, up to 5,000. Is it up to 5,000 or is it automatic 5,000?
Up to 5,000. I mean, we anticipate most folks will apply for the full 5, but you don't
Okay.
required to apply for the 5. If you really just need 2,000 for some reason,
Mhm.
we can certainly entertain that application as well.
Okay. So up to the 5,000, you want to gather all your receipts for this year. Now, is it for this year or is it a 12-month period look back?
No, it's actually for the purposes of this program, it's directly in response to the COVID-19 crisis.
Okay.
So to be as flexible as we could, we've incorporated the entire first quarter of the year to start that clock.
Okay.
Our initial rollout was going to be right at the end of the first quarter, and some delays
Okay.
have occurred. So we are also incorporating second quarter year to date. So basically January 1 year to date expenses that you have incurred. And there's a section in the application, really the heart and the meat of the application that I want to highlight is a narrative question where they ask, the business is asked to describe how they have suffered an economic loss as a result of social distancing policies, the shelter-in period, the overall economic downturn that occurred because of the global health pandemic. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that ties right back to the federal guidelines. That's the language that they use, is that these funds can be used to prepare for, respond to, or recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. As long as a business can clearly articulate that and demonstrate, I guess this is one thing I need to mention I left out on the documentation, be able to demonstrate that loss through unaudited financial statements. So we realize that with everything that's going on and the timing of this program, no one's going to really have a clear, clean, audited financial statement for any activity in 2019, most likely. But we do need to see, and there is a very thorough but brief explanation of what a quarterly financial statement can be. But those will need to be included for minimally the first quarter of this year, if not year to date, in relation to the emergency situation we're in, as well as a comparable quarter from last year, preferably the same one, so that we can see a decline in revenues or an impact that your business has had or has suffered as a result of the situations that have come forward in 2020.
Okay, so it looks like you're just wanting to compare the look back of the financials to make sure there has been actually a decline in the revenue in the business. Okay, and
Sure.
that makes sense. Okay.
And it's not exclusive to a decline. The selection committee will our selection committee is constituted of some members of the local banking community, the local economic development community, and a couple of other business-oriented professionals. They'll know how to look at both your narrative answer as a business as well as your financials and bring some context to that, because there can be some businesses that may have not seen a dramatic change in revenue, but it was a dramatic change in projected growth, right? Maybe this was year 2 of the business and they were really expecting a hockey stick up in their revenues and occur. We know from some businesses that we have relationships from prior years with, that's exactly what happened. They were on the ready, set, go ramp for a really good 2020. And 20 kind of melted around them and it wasn't their fault. So we know that businesses are in a lot of different stages of reacting and recovering and adjusting to things that are going on. So we felt like the brief narrative answer, in addition to some documented financials, was going to be the most holistic way for our review committee to get a feel for what that business was experiencing.
Okay. Yeah, we are getting some questions. I do see your questions, guys. So we will get to those here in a second. I just want to make sure I still just clarify that point, because I know it's some confusion from Friday's call regarding that. So let me just go back to the point about, okay, so this is going to be a reimbursement that you have to go ahead and gather your bills, and you want to be sure you have that information. So when you submit your application, you have all that data, and then whatever you are awarded, that amount of money that is awarded, you can use that at your discretion. Okay. But if you want it to be a forgiven, then you want to make sure that you're showing that you have a full-time employee that you have maintained throughout the year, or if yourself is low income and you are that full-time employee, then that will also count. So just wanted to make sure I clarify that. And then Daniel, anything else you want to go ahead and cover before I start covering the questions?
I think we've hit the big ones. I just want to highlight the basic eligibility real quick before we move forward. So this program is for businesses that are physically located and licensed in Augusta, Richmond County. So that would include the cities of Hepzibah and Blythe as well. The definition that we're working with for small businesses is defined by the Main Street America program as businesses with 10 or fewer employees and $500,000 or less in gross annual revenues. The business owner who is applying with their name on the application, if there are multiple owners, must be, excuse me, at least a 51% majority owner, or we'll need to see documentation from all owners of the business if they're not at least a 51% majority owner. And we will do some background work that is not contained in application just to make sure that all businesses that apply that meet other eligibility criteria are not past due on bankruptcy liens, local, state, or federal taxes or fees, and that, as I mentioned earlier, that they're in compliance with City of Augusta licensing, zoning, and land use regulation requirements. So that's the please for you there.
And this is the first question I asked, and thank you, Leah, for kind of bringing that up. I want to clarify that, and I'm going to ask kind of Leah's question, and Joe Ray, I'll get to your question as well. Is this open to brick and mortar and online businesses?
Yes, ma'am. So a virtual business or an online e-commerce business would be eligible so long as they have that employee component to it.
Okay.
They're licensed in Richmond County. That's the key. They have to be licensed in Richmond.
They have to be licensed in Augusta, Richmond County. So you should have your business license. I know a lot of people have been calling to get their paperwork in order. So we've been a lot of those calls, and we've been helping people where to go. But you go down to Telfair Street and get your license. They give you an application. They're very helpful in their, they don't issue. I know South Carolina, I think they issue same day. I don't know if Augusta, Richmond County got to that point yet. I haven't had to apply for a license in a while personally.
Yeah, it's been a few years for me too, but you get it in the mail though. The last time I did,
you get it in the mail.
17, it came in the mail. Yeah.
Yes, but still get everything in order. If you're a business owner and you're on this live and you don't have your documentation in order, take the opportunity to go ahead and get everything that you need for your business. That's your license, your EIN. If you're LLC, go ahead and get LLC and get licensed with the state of Georgia. If you're in Georgia or South Carolina, wherever you may be, because we do cover the whole CSRA area. So sometimes I'll reference South Carolina as well. Just be sure you take care of all that documentation. This is a good opportunity to go ahead and do it. If you don't know how to do it, you can reach out to myself. I know that Daniel can also help you too. And we want you to have that structure in place because that's how we can get you to the opportunities that we want you to take advantage of. Like we don't want you to miss out on relief programs. We also want you to take advantage of being certified with the government so you take advantage of opportunities there and so forth. It's just a lot of opportunities you can have when you have that paperwork in line. I know a lot of times our businesses, I'm just going to be quite frank, you guys know I am very upfront. We begin to run a business and not have our paperwork up. So this is critical that you go ahead and get your paperwork in line, get your EINs, get your LLCs, get your business licenses with the city that you're with, that you're in, and so forth, and just make sure that that information is renewed each year. It's very low fees for Georgia compared to California to have an LLC, to have so I work with businesses across the country. So take advantage of the renewal fees and the fees that you have with the state of Georgia to go ahead and get that paperwork in line. That way you can take advantage of all the opportunities that you see coming up. I know we've been sending out a lot of grants and so forth, and they're requiring a lot of the same basic things that Daniel's discussing today. So this is a good opportunity. If you don't have it, go ahead and do it now. Now, let me kind of ask some questions. If the business is an online platform, does it include expenses to maintain an online presence, i.e. website, inventory, and marketing? Was a question from our VP of Business Affairs.
That's a good question. So for e-commerce businesses like that, we really want to try and keep our eligible reimbursement expenses down to payroll, leasing costs, mortgage costs, insurance, or utilities. Now, that brings up an interesting question that if an applicant would like to speak with me about, I would need to seek some counsel whether or not hosting fees, for instance, on an e-commerce business relate to a leasing cost. On first blush, they don't seem to fit that definition for me, but I don't want to offer a confident answer without knowing better. But again, one point I will make related to that is when you submit an application as a firm, the more simplistic you can make the application for review from an expense standpoint for the selection committee, I think improves your opportunity. So the ability to be really diverse in what you're saying you expended monies on that you'd like to be reimbursed for actually will create some complication and confusion. Not that it'll make you ineligible, but we're really not looking for a robust or a diverse list of expenses. If you can hammer in the amount of funds that you need to apply for up to that $5,000 in as few line items and as exact to the eligible cost that you see listed on the application as possible, it'll avoid any confusion, both from the staff level here reviewing for eligibility, but then also our selection committee when they look at your application. So if that question would like to be directed to me, I'll make sure Ms. West has my email. They can send it to me so I can get some guidance, but I would offer the advice to simplify your expenses as much as possible. Because again, on the back end, when you receive the reimbursement to utilize funds, that can go towards anything. We're not putting any use restrictions on that end, but we do have some basic categories you have to stay in for what you can be reimbursed for.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I think about online, that's a good one. Like it's always marketing, hosting fees, so forth. And then some of us have like storage units or whatever that we're warehousing sometimes our products and stuff in. So that's another cost that a lot of time online businesses have as well. So I want to kind of throw that out there because I have been virtual for a very long time. And those are the costs that I know I incur a lot of times just running an online business. Now, I want to know, the other question that we did have was from, when was this approved officially from the commission? We got that question.
Last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday. I was going to say it was last Tuesday. And then the other question is for the members that are on the review committee, are these board members locally? Are there employees of HCD? And then if they don't get approved, will they be educated as to why not? The committee's already formed though, right? I believe.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. Yes. So there are no City of Augusta employees on the committee. There are local business professionals from two different banks in the community, a member of the Economic Development Authority of Augusta, as well as, three members of the banking community. I apologize. We added a third banker. I'm very apologetic for that. So 3 members of the banking community, a retail development specialist from Economic Development Authority, Ms. Parr from the Chamber of Commerce. I think that's it. Oh, and a member of the Citizen Advisory Committee for Housing and Community Development.
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I got any other questions.
Ms. West,
any other questions, guys? Make sure you drop them down below as well. And if I'll go ahead, Daniel.
There was a second question there that I made a good point to highlight. So we will, as I mentioned earlier, we're accepting these applications on a rolling basis.
Okay.
When you submit an application, you're going to receive sort of a little acknowledgement form at our office that says that you have submitted that form. And then businesses will receive communication, in one of 2 ways. If you have submitted an application that is materially incomplete or doesn't meet an eligibility requirement, say you're not based in Richmond County or you don't have a business license or something objective like that on our checklist that's in the application, our staff will actually deem that application not eligible for the selection committee, and a letter and email communication will go to that business owner informing them of why they didn't meet that requirement. At that point, that business is open to reapply and be considered if they can correct the deficiency. Now, if the deficiency obviously is you're based in South Carolina, I don't know how quick you can repair that problem, right? So maybe that doesn't get you back in, but we would have constructive conversation and communication with you about how you can become compliant or eligible for the program based on that. And for the next step, for those that do go to the loan committee, we are asking the loan committee to, provide us with both. There's a rubric that you'll see that they'll be using to score, and I'll do a really untechnologically flashy thing and just hold it up real quick. But it's a simple 1-page rubric that's part of the application that you will receive, so you can see the criteria upon which you will be scored. And we are going to ask the selection committee to help us communicate back to the firms that are not selected for award what the reasons they were not selected for were. And we will, like I described before, we will issue that communication on their behalf back to the applicant. And if the deficiency is something they can repair or correct, they also would be eligible to reapply again until funds are exhausted.
Okay, awesome. That's good. Now, is this open for for-profits and nonprofits?
Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. So a little line I like to use. I come from the nonprofit world originally. I try to remind people nonprofit is a as a tax designation status and not a business model. So we would be open to applications from our local nonprofit partners.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. And
Yes,
then I'm just trying to make sure I don't see any other questions as well. Now when they fill out, because you said it was a PDF form, so I'm assuming I haven't looked at it all in detail yet because I was waiting on our call this morning. So when they go to the application and they download a PDF, then they can upload all the documentation, I'm assuming, to the website.
No, ma'am, we're doing everything by hand or mail.
Oh, okay.
Again, trying to close that information gap. We didn't want folks technology issue with email or any other restriction.
Okay.
So their instructions to please hand deliver or mail the application to our office at 510 Fenwick Street upon completion. And if we do receive any through the mail, that verification process that I described will happen the phone and via email versus the in-person acknowledgement form.
Okay. So this is a hand documentation. I'm sorry, I love the virtual world, so I'm always like electronics. But okay, so this documentation, or this application for the Augusta Richmond County Business Relief, you want to make sure that you print out the application. Everything is either delivered directly to the office or you can mail in your application as well. Okay, so I wanted to clarify that, and I love the fact that you guys really thought. I don't know if anybody has gave you compliments here, but I know I put in my kind of votes for things I wanted to see come out the program. So it looks like you guys really did an awesome job of just trying to really encompass everything and then really be able to give relief to the business owners pretty quickly. I like the idea of the rolling and also including the profits and nonprofits, and then also making sure that you're maintain it for this area, because I know a lot of people, you don't want to have the technology differences with them being able to do the application online. So great job. If no one told you, I will tell you that, because I know you guys are working hard all the time for the community.
Thank you so much.
Yes. I wanted to go ahead and do that. I don't see any other questions right now. I know we both have really busy days. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to end the live, but I want to be sure if you guys watch this live later on or you come into this afternoon, you can drop any questions below. I will try to answer them as well, and I'll give them to Daniel and he can answer them and I can post them on our site or whatever, or send them through the email as well. We get most commonly asked questions. The Greater Augusta Black Chamber of Commerce is in contact constantly with the housing community development because they do so much for our business owners. So we continue to foster that relationship since our inception 3 years ago. And you'll be looking for more stuff from us and collaborative efforts in the future as well, as we continue to work through things. But I just want to remind you guys, if you didn't catch my live on, I think I did it Saturday or Friday on Juneteenth, that unfortunately 41% of Black-owned businesses have closed during the COVID-19. So we're very, as a chamber, we are extremely focused on making sure we don't have any more Black-owned businesses closed. We want to make sure you're taking advantage of all these opportunities, the grants that are getting put out by so many different organizations. We have been sending them out on a major scale. Take the opportunity to go ahead and apply for these grants, et cetera, and so forth. So be sure that you are doing that. Go ahead, Daniel. What was you going to say?
I'm sorry. I did mean to bring this up earlier. I apologize, because this is a point of confusion for a lot of folks. So the unique design of this program and how it is funded using housing and urban development dollars, you do not have an exclusionary concern. The only folks or the only businesses that may or may not be able to receive funding under this program, and it's very, very minimal, will be any businesses who have received economic development funding from us in the past. And I'll go a quick example of that. So what we can't do is duplicate. So if we funded a business in the community for a startup grant, right? We can provide this channel of funding for startup expenses, even though that wouldn't really totally make sense for an emergency response, right? So I wanted to say it that way, to say that just because you've done business with housing and community development as a for-profit or nonprofit before, doesn't mean that you're not eligible for this program. It just means that we would have to be sure that we don't pay you twice for the same expense, basically. But for all the other federal programs, payroll protection, the emergency insurance programs, all the different things that have come out from different avenues of the federal government, they don't match up with this. So if you've received payroll protection, you are still eligible under this program as well. So don't feel like this is a either or situation.
Good. Thank you for bringing out that point. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. And yeah, it's multiple grants you can get, guys. So I know I've been working to clarify as much information as well, but there's so much misinformation out there. Try to stick to your organizations where you're getting the information from, because we're very clear, because we're on calls, we're constantly talking to, the government, et cetera, and so forth, and making sure we understand so we can give you accurate information. So try to get the information from your organizations when it comes to grants and loans you can apply for and so forth. It's a lot of opportunities that are coming forth and continue to drop on a regular basis. So we did get a good question. I want to ask you this. If you have multiple businesses, is there a restriction on how many applications you can submit?
So yeah, we technically from a structure format, we are engaging with businesses, right? Not necessarily business owners. So each individually licensed business is an eligible applicant. I will say that consideration is something that I have highlighted or will be highlighting in the selection committee process, is if we have business owners in a selection group that have already received funding. Obviously, they will see it if they're in the same round. So if Ms. West submitted 4 applications for 4 of her businesses for Friday's deadline,
that could be totally accurate. I do have multiple businesses, yes.
There you go, right. And so the selection committee will say that. And the thing I can't say is how the selection committee will treat that, okay? Because they are within certain guidelines and direction at their discretion to provide this funding based on their knowledge of the community and the need. So I don't know, I have no problem to see viable businesses that are creating jobs receiving those reimbursement grants for the various businesses, because that's more jobs created, right? Every time grant, if we see a job created or retained as a community development entity, HCD is happy. We may not want to get into the business of providing dozens of loans to the same owner businesses. So there will be some discretion on the selection committee level about that, I do believe. But we would not discourage you if you have what you feel is an eligible business and the ability to create or retain a job for a person who's low or moderate income. Please apply. We want to be there to support you, and we hope to use this as a way to build a longer-term relationship to provide you access to some of our future economic development initiatives and services as well.
Okay. Yeah, so it is a lot of initiatives I know that you guys offer from the housing community development standpoint for business owners, but we'll do a different talk about that. We want to just really cover it on COVID-19 today, just so we can get this information out. So it is based off a business entity, basically, is what Daniel's letting you know. So yes, if you have multiple businesses based off a business entity, if you feel like that business meets these qualifications, then apply for the relief, but it will be up to the committee to make that decision and determination. Okay. Any other last comments or things you would like to share with the audience before I let you go this morning?
No, ma'am. Just thank you very much to you and to your audience for an opportunity to speak with you. If you have questions, you can reach out to us. We have a team of folks working on this. Just to throw out a phone number, 706-821-1797. But Ms. West can also share our other contact information with you, so you can reach out to us. And it's also listed in both the application and on the website as well. So good luck to everyone. We look forward to seeing a lot. We've already had a few applications come in this morning since I've been here. So we look forward to hearing some good news about the community and how we can provide some assistance.
I do have one last question. I think about it. Will the businesses be listed, like who were awarded? Or no? Are you keeping that?
We will be providing, we have not had a conversation about publicizing that.
Okay.
Just as a matter of transparency, all businesses funded under the program will be included in a report from the selection committee to the commission on a bi-weekly basis. As you probably know, any communication that's made officially to the Augusta Commission is a matter of public record. So, I mean, we're not going to tell people's names. We're not going to tell people's addresses, but we would say this business was recommended for this much. This business was recommended for this much. So complete anonymity is not something that we can foresee, but it also is not something we plan to heavily publicize, except for some select businesses that may wish to partner with us to do some marketing of the program down the line.
Okay. Okay, I don't know. That question just popped into my head because that keeps coming up a lot of times with different grants and so forth with the SBA and PPP. So I just thought I would throw that out there just in case anybody had that question. Well, we thank you for tuning into this live. Make sure you tag business owners below. We want to get this information out to the community. This is a great opportunity for Augusta, Georgia businesses. Again, you have to be located in Augusta, Georgia and have a business license with Augusta, Georgia, amongst with the other things that are on the application. So I just want to make sure that I clarify that. And if you need to get in contact with the chamber, you can reach out to us at info@mygabc.org. Of course, our social medias is mygabc.org. And then, of course, you can also hit us on our website at www.mygabc.org. Daniel, thank you so much for this informative, quick session that we did this morning, but this was a critical topic we wanted to get out to this community. And I look forward to, of course, talking to you via email and on the phone and however other ways we communicate.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the partnership.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, Ms. West. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.